Let's charge the damn mound and go over some money moves. So there were 1 billion transactions over the last 3 days. And yes, there's some manager news and some front office news in terms of who has filled some roles. But let's start with some player news. Anything stand out to you? I mean, obviously, for example, we can show this tweet. The White Sox are declining the option on shortstop Tim Anderson. It's not a surprise given the season that he just had. It was $14 million. It wasn't going to happen. Any of the options that were either picked up or declined that stood out to you? Eduardo Rodriguez opts out of his deal, 3 years, $49 million. Marcus Stroman's going to be a free agent now as he opts out of his deal. They all made sense, right? Chad Green picked up by the Blue Jays. They picked up his weird option situation, 2 years, it's about 21 mil.
Sean Manaea's one was interesting to me. I looked at it a little bit more. He had more success down the finishing 2 months of the season. I think he was supposed to still make $12.5 million. I think it's an intriguing thing that he's now a free agent. I think he's part of that third tier of pitching. I feel like he could be although everyone's pumping up Giolito, I feel like he could be in that realm, like somebody that wasn't a starter. Somebody like the Brewers could pick him up because he wasn't a starter. He was used in the bulk role, but I think he threw 117, 120 innings, something like that. I think it would give somebody an opportunity to say, we could probably buy low with this guy.
Yeah, but why the hell not take his $12 million option? That's what doesn't make sense.
Why wouldn't he? He's going to get more.
You think he's going to get more than $12.5 million?
Yes, they only do this if they think they're going to get more.
No, I understand that, but
yes. He won't get 12.5 a year.
He didn't pitch very well this year.
He's going to get more than 12.5 million guaranteed dollars.
Is he neither?
He's a starter.
He was awful as a starter this year.
He was a bulk guy coming in sometimes after the opener.
When he started, he didn't pitch very well. So which one is he? I mean, you've got to have a good agent.
Here's my thing.
There was no one that really surprised me. I mean,
I was surprised.
Eduardo Rodriguez, Erod, 349. He can probably get more than that because it's a weaker-ish free agent class.
Everyone needs 3 starters.
Oh, I know. I understand that. Tim Anderson, that was probably the one that was probably the hardest decision for the White Sox because he was a first-round pick and he'd been there for a while, and everyone thought he was going to be a superstar, and he kind of fizzled out this year. $14 million though. The question is, what are the White Sox? I love reading some of the White Sox quotes from Chris Getz, and they're like, "We're not rebuilding, but we don't have a shortstop, a starting pitcher, a right fielder, a second baseman, a catcher. We don't have 7 positions, but we're not rebuilding. We're going to be better next year." Like what? What are you talking about? That doesn't make sense to me. But again,
I think
White Sox are the best.
They're disrespecting the AL Central, saying,
"Well, that's also
we can turn things around in 5 minutes in that division." Which
it's
the easiest division in baseball.
If you spend money,
correct?
Are they going to spend money?
You tell me.
Probably not. I mean, we all know the answer to that. So if you're not, but again, they have Michael Kopech and Dylan Cease that are starters. If Kopech's a starter again, they have no catcher. Corey Lee, who hit 0.52 this year. I don't know what the exact numbers were, but it wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
Their first base, fine. Second base, they have no shortstop unless they bring up Colson Montgomery, who's their number 1 prospect.
He's going to come up next year.
But is he going to start the season in the big leagues?
He's Corey Seager.
Okay, if you say so.
That's what the comps are.
Yeah, and I was Johnny Bench. I mean, I hope he is. I hope he turns out to be Corey Seager. That'd be a hell of a get. Third base, Moncada, you counting on him? I mean, they got Luis Robert in center. They got Eloy, who can't stay healthy. And in right field, they got, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we mentioned their bullpen. They gave up on Hendricks. They traded Graveman. They got rid of Kelly. They got Aaron Bummer. I guess Aaron Bummer's going to pitch every inning.
They have the opportunity to build their whole team back in one offseason.
That works well if you're the Yankees and you're going to spend $500 million, or you're the Rangers and go out and get Seager, Simeon. I mean, listen, Chris Getz, he's the new GM. He's got all the power, so I hope he does the right moves.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea what their payroll is now with all of those guys? Technically, I know some of them, they have to pay for their options, but I'm sure they couldn't just get rid of Tim Anderson. I'm sure there's some kind of buyout that was in his contract, but they have so much. Are they going to spend more than $50 million this offseason? On not overall, but on next year's salaries.
Well, they were at 190 something million this year, right?
Yeah, it was something like that.
197, I think it
high.
was. It was like in the top 10 in baseball, the White Sox.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was high.
I thought they were
I
like
didn't think it was that high.
170 something, but
It was in
you
the
would
top
know
10.
better.
It was in the top 10 in baseball going into the season.
I will find that out. Can't put me on the spot like that.
Well, I'm just saying, they were top 10 in baseball because that was the whole thing. They're like, White Sox fans were like, we're spending all this money and we lost 100 games. Now we're not going to spend any money and we're not going to lose 100 games. I don't know. I think it's an interesting approach. Hopefully it works out. Obviously there'll be some non-tender guys you can pick up. There'll be some trades they're going to have to make. But what was it?
It was one opening day, 181.
Okay.
And it was 14th, so
Okay.
mid-range. Okay, not
But
far off. You're right.
The highest in the Central, wasn't it? Maybe the Twins?
I think theirs were higher. Yeah, they were higher than the Twins by 30 million.
So the White Sox were the highest in the Central, clearly, because Kansas City wasn't higher, Detroit wasn't higher, and Cleveland definitely wasn't higher.
Yeah.
So and then they freed up.
It's much higher than Arizona.
But still, I mean, I think there's a lot of work to be done there. And here's the thing for me with Tim Anderson, you just gave him up for nothing. Why not bring him back at $14 million? It's $14 million. Let's be honest. I mean, yeah, it's a lot to.
Is he going to get that on the market?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
But here's the thing: if let's say he goes into spring training, bangs, gets off to a hot start, there's going to be a team out there that's going to need a second baseman, a shortstop, something.
But you could
trade him and get
sign him for less.
You're going to. You think they're not going to re-sign him?
I understand that, but I'm saying they're saying that the value's not there right now.
Okay. I mean,
just throwing that out.
You need a starting shortstop in the big leagues. Whatever you say about Tim Anderson, no power this year, his batting average down, all that stuff, on base percentage. A starting shortstop in the big leagues is really hard to find. You're not just plugging somebody in.
But he's also not a plus defender. He's also not he hit one home run this year. He had an awful year. I mean, listen, everyone has bad years. You just don't normally see a guy go from like hitting 300 to hitting 200 with one homer and bad defense. I mean, whatever metrics you look at, the defense wasn't good. He didn't steal bases because he couldn't get on base. He doesn't walk. So the power is in the hit, or the value is in his hit and his speed. But if you can't get on base, you can't run. And if you can't hit, you can't get on base because he doesn't walk. It's just an interesting conundrum with him because I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what he gets. I mean, listen, I hope Tim gets everything he wants and ends up in a place where he plays every day and gets money.
Everything to me was pretty status quo. The only thing I want to point out, and then we have breaking news on the manager front, Mark Hanna was traded. So that was the first, in my mind, significant trade. It's an MLB player. This is a big league regular outfielder. Yes, the power and the defense, I would say even last year went down a little bit for him. But overall, I mean, he played well with the Brewers. He is an on-base guy. He goes from Milwaukee to the Tigers for a prospect. And in my mind, Kratz, this is pretty classic Brewers. They're not going to spend, 8 figures in one season on an outfielder like this if they don't have to, right? Obviously, the Yelich contract's a different beast, but it was an $11 million option. Clearly, they were going to decline it, so they shopped him around, and the Tigers are like, yeah, sure. For them, I think it's a great pickup. They need a Mark Hanna in that lineup, in that clubhouse, getting on base like that around an outfield now that could be pretty decent. I mean, Riley Green is going to be a good ball player. He already was. And I mean, the ceiling is off the charts. And then I like Parker Meadows too. So that's a nice little trio out there that they picked up really for not much.
It'll help those young hitters that, have already been in the big leagues and are going to keep coming up to the big leagues. I think his professional at-bats, you saw what him and Santana did to that Brewers lineup. Ultimately, it wasn't enough. But the fact that they essentially, they traded him, he didn't have another year on his contract. The option had to be picked up. And for $11 million, you're getting an $11 million player who had a above 2, I think, WAR this year. A guy who gets on base, a guy who is going to steal you double-digit bases. Like, you're paying $11 million for a solid player that I think if the Tigers become a team that starts going after that AL Central, obviously they're going to need pitching. Obviously, they're going to need their young guys to step up. Like Torkelson, he got his 30 homers last year. So you're starting to see some of these young pieces, and you add in Mark Hanna type of pieces. I don't know if the Tigers are ever going to go to the level of spending like they did back in the, Cabrera and Sheffield and Pudge and Curtis Granderson era, but that's a great pickup for him. And anytime the Brewers pick up a reliever in a trade that had like some success the year before at one of the higher levels in the minor leagues, you're like, that guy could be pretty decent.
Dude, I know, Kratz, you have a love for the Brewers, but it's been funny to me on the show. You've already said that they're like making all the best moves. They're going to pick up everybody. I mean, it's kind of like he's like, well, they could pick up this person. They got rid of Cannon for reliever. They're going to make, and I'm like, man, dude, if the Brewers make all these moves, they might actually get to the World Series.
But wait, the biggest news of all, it sounds like their manager's not coming back.
Yeah.
Ready for this? Let's drop it. Breaking news. There's all kinds of manager dominoes falling right now. So first off, the New York Mets are hiring Carlos Mendoza as their next manager. 43 years old. He was bench coach for the New York Yankees over the past 4 years. I'm going to drop this down at the same time, okay? Because I think many people in the Mets world, or at least that were following the Mets, thought that Craig Counsell might end up there. We saw that the Brewers gave him a pretty substantial offer. There were reports out there that they made him an offer to be the highest paid manager. Ready for this from Ken? Oof, the tweet just disappeared on me. Hold on. Well, Craig Counsell will manage next season. This is from Ken. But not the Brewers or Mets. He is heading to a team with an existing manager. Mets hiring Carlos Mendoza per
White Sox,
Joel, John, etc.
Can we say White Sox?
Are they going to make him the highest paid manager ever?
Can we say White Sox?
This is not a White Sox show. Okay?
Close to Milwaukee. It's not a Brewer show either, but I mean, we get it. We got it this morning.
Well, we have Brew Crew.
I've mentioned second tier players that could sign with the Brewers for a low cost, and AJ's.
You said Chaminade was going to the Brewers. The guy that whoever they picked up for Mark Canha, the reliever guy. I mean, you're like Craig Counsell. You're like, man, again. Brewers might get there for the first time since '82. Harvey, they're bringing back Harvey's wall bangers. Damn it!
And T Plush, Niger Morgan's gonna be the bench coach.
I don't know. Where can Counsell go? A team with a manager? So they're just going to be like, hey, by the way, you're fired. We're hiring Craig. Oh, but that's teams have done that before.
All right, you got to say who is it? Who do you think it is?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who.
Definitely the Rangers. They hate Bochy.
Astros. Do the Astros have a manager?
No.
No, they don't count.
Someone with an existing manager because Dusty Baker retired.
But he's got to be a team ready to compete because Craig Counsell's not going to go to like.
Can I throw an idea out there? What about the Yankees?
Oh, no way. They would do Boone dirty like that? That would be dirty.
That would be dirty.
Oof, I can't.
Help me out. Throw teams out there because
maybe
you
they're
know
going to hire
come out soon.
They just lost their bench coach. Maybe they're going to have Counsell as a manager and make Boone the bench coach.
No.
Okay. Well,
I'm just looking at tweets. Jim Bowden said Counsell to the Padres makes way too much sense on so many levels. Wait and see if it happens. Angels also have an opening. But Ken said there's an existing manager.
See you later, Scott Service.
That was the one. Seattle was the one.
No way. Seattle's not paying top dollar for a manager.
Plus Counsell tries to win more than 54% of the time. So
no way.
He's not going to be able to manage in Seattle.
That's a definite no.
Royals? No, he wouldn't.
See you later. Tigers, no. Carlos Marmol.
Well, it's Ollie Marmol. So Carlos Marmol. Thank you. Carlos Marmol was a pitcher that he was once bought a Ferrari and tried to drive around, and he couldn't get it over a certain mile per hour, and they asked him if he had taken the emergency brake off, and he hadn't. So it wouldn't go over like 40 miles an hour. He couldn't figure out why. That's a true story.
Wait, repeat that.
He bought a Ferrari.
Tweets. Who is this?
Carlos Marmol.
Marmol.
He was a pitcher for the Cubs, and he bought it and it had the emergency brake on. He took it out to drive it, and he's like, it won't go over 40 miles an hour. And he brought it back in. He never took the emergency brake off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's not going to be the manager.
Chapman bought a Ferrari or something, Lamborghini, and tore the exhaust system out of it, driving into the Louisville Bats parking lot when he was playing for the AAA Reds.
Who?
Chappie, Raldis Chapman.
All right, let's stay on task here. Because also, in terms of manager dominoes, we might as well just drop this in here now, too. Steph Vote is the manager of the Cleveland Guardians, right?
By the way,
that's been reported.
Carlos Mendoza's Wikipedia already has him as the manager of the Mets.
Do you guys know any of these people, too? They look at you guys. Do you know Vote? Do you know Mendoza.
I know Vote, obviously.
Okay.
Playing against him, but I don't know him. Kretz knows him way better.
What are you doing? Oh, is that to you? To your diary?
I hung it up. Yeah, Voter's a guy, man. I played with him when he was injured in Milwaukee. They brought me in because he wasn't going to be able to come back. And then the Giants, in a turn of events, brought him in to take over my spot in San Francisco next year in 19. Awesome dude, great friend, family. Our wives are friends. His kids are freaking super cute. And he's gonna be great in Cleveland. Whatever Cleveland puts behind their organization, players wise, that's a whole nother topic. But if there's somebody that can get the most out of a team, I'm thinking it's him. Obviously, he's never managed before, but he is just a great connection guy. He does a great job of understanding so many players because he was everything. He was an all-star. He had a guaranteed contract. He was a non-prospect. He became, he built himself into the player that he ended up having an incredible career as.
I'm waiting, Scott.
For who it is? It's not going to break this second.
You just
Why?
wrote,
Do you know
I'll
it?
break in a second.
No, not that break.
Oh.
That's in our group chat. I said.
So you guys didn't even say. You guys need. Who do you think he's going to? You got to.
I gave you names.
I love this one.
No, we need a lock.
I love this one. Somebody had who was it? Derek, one of our guys that works for us, said Boston. Cora moves up to GM. Breslow, boom.
Breslow, boom. What?
Breslow's president of baseball ops.
Yeah.
Slide Cora into GM. Counsell into manager. It's not a bad thought. And they'll pay.